who's lit the light of the Beyond Zero campaign and really shown to the world that as a woman, as a mother, as the wife of a president, she can really put the spotlight on some of the scourges such as maternal death, such as adolescent health, right into the public arena. With a population of 42 million, it's so easy to change it. India is about 1.1 billion. Those are things that will take time. But it's happening in India. But I think in a country like Kenya, where social norms, value systems, as they've just spoken about, but above all, I think it's a country with such incredible talent. It's a surprise. These are black spots on a country whose economic propulsion is overtaking everything else. Bottom line is, I think the value system of the home has to begin there. The value system in schools have to be encouraged, where teachers understand what equality between boys and girls means. At the school level, that is where the real propulsion needs to take place. But as I said again, it's more men that need to really speak up and condemn any form of violence against women. Every form of it needs to be condemned. That's when society begins to change.
You know, that is right. What would men say if that was their daughter?
I mean,
without looking at it, without looking at it that a woman has been raped. Can we bring it closer home and say, that is my daughter, or that is my mother? Once we can bring it home, what is happening to another lady as to being your close relative. Because definitely the relatives of those women who have undergone that are feeling their pain, they're feeling the embarrassment that that lady has gone through. But when we, as long as we take it is to another, to a lady, to another woman, then
it seems far-fetched. As you said, we need to own it. Are we owning it? That's the question. Are we owning it?
John, I really also want to condemn that with all my heart, because some people may even use the Bible to say that that woman deserved that. No human being deserves that kind of treatment. Even if they were wearing half naked. I've just watched, and one man was saying, if somebody is passing and you feel you can't control yourself, then turn to the other side. Look on the other side. But when I look at what happened, it has really got nothing to do with that girl. Probably it has to do with the issues of male chauvinism, the way he has said, men who feel like they are so important and they really want to exert their power even on strangers. And when I look at it, these people just wanted to see a naked woman. It had nothing to do with the dressing. You know, nowadays people are so perverted. Our young people spend time on pornography. Every time their mind is sitting, they are just imagining things. And I just see like their mind went beyond, and they just wanted to see a naked girl. And it is so, so humiliating, and action has to be taken. We have to put a full stop to this.
Pastor Mark, where are we going wrong in terms of inculcating good morals, good values, even as you react to what we saw, in fact, the stripping of that lady, not just in Nairobi?
Well, John, first I would like to speak on my own behalf and to express my personal convictions on that matter, my personal opinion, that it is barbaric, and I can't find the right words to condemn such an act, but certainly, as the Deputy President put it, it is primitive. It is actually primitive. Besides being barbaric, it is primitive. But when it comes to the issue of addressing that problem or such problems in our society, I would go back to what Brother Chatterjee said, getting back to the foundations. I believe that to find such solutions to such problems in society, we need what I call a transgenerational approach. That is dealing with it from childhood, beginning to, if possible, to incorporate it in the curriculum that children are taught. And teachers also, we should also, I think we should also begin to deal with our teachers as well. Because among the members of the teaching profession, there are also some who are unfortunately perverted, and they are also the ones who are teaching children some of these things. And so there must be some mechanism put in place by the Teacher Service Commission and by government to also be able to vet some of the teachers that teach our children, because some of them children even report that teachers do such things, they teach us these things, they tell us these kind of things, but they never quite get to be disciplined. And also, as Brother Chatterjee said also earlier, on the issue of enforcing the law, enforcement of the law, because the law is clear. Anybody who metes out sexual violence or anyone who is found guilty of sexual harassment, when you go to the Sexual Offences Act, chapter number 3 of 2006, it says that such a person should, at least when found guilty, serve a prison term of not less than 3 years, or a fine of 100,000 shillings, or both. But we rarely see such things. People are taken to court, and because sometimes the people who are the complainants don't have money, they cannot be, the courts are very far from the people who are victims. They cannot afford to commute every time the case is postponed, is adjourned, they cannot come. So once they don't appear once or twice, the case is thrown out and the criminal walks out stock-free, and they go back to the society. They are reintegrated into the society, and they go out there again.
Indeed, and it's a good point. You talked about the judiciary, and Sid, you had mentioned about a whole change even in the way these cases are handled in our courts.
I think the following things need to happen. First of all, I think the India example is a good one, where India actually went ahead and established fast court mechanisms to actually deal with issues of gender violence. It was an issue of national shame for the country. You know, it was there in the international media. I think Kenya needs to do that. I think before it spirals out of control, and before Kenya also hits the international headlines for some of the most egregious acts of sexual violence being committed, I think this needs to happen. But the second and most important thing is a sensitized judiciary. After all, a lot of these are men that are sitting on these panels. They need to be sensitized right from the time they enter the school or the legal profession. And third and most important part is the law enforcement entity. I just saw this little clip about this policeman who had raped a woman. Very sad that, you know, they are the guardians of the law, protectors of the law. But keep in mind, that policeman grew up as a young boy, perhaps in a home, where he used to see his father beat up his mother, where between him and his sisters, he was treated as the favorite boy, and the sisters were, you know, less equal to him. But when you have a culture that actually promotes misogyny, a culture that promotes chauvinism, a culture which promotes patriarchy, the end result will invariably be this. So I think for that policeman, when a policeman goes and commits this, and I say this as an official of the UN, when a policeman commits this, there is a chain of command that that policeman is responsible for. I think the punishment for them is just not limited to that policeman, but up that chain of command. Clearly, someone has given them the space that they can actually go and undertake such things. It's not acceptable. I think that is why getting the law enforcement agencies very much, and this is where UNTP, where the UN family can really help in sensitizing, building up the capacities of the institutions to make sure that they really act and are able to protect the well-being and protect the law, because they are the custodians of it.
Indeed. And Honorable Jubikling, why is this issue, especially in our society, being so hard to deal with?
Let me say, just to catch up on what he said about our security personnel. Sometimes they will do such a thing, in most cases. Then they are transferred to hardship areas as a punishment. Instead of facing the law. They should be sent to jail. The act should be implemented. We have so many laws in our country, very good ones, like the Sexual Offences Act is very well, and I was there when it was discussed that time, issues of dressing code, and we said the issues of dressing should not come in because, for example, I come from the up north, and the further you go into the north, the more scanty people are dressed. Does it mean if we come visiting here today, they'll strip everybody naked? Just look at the carvings that you see around. Are you seeing those carvings with the women fully dressed or half dressed? You'll just find that you're wearing something just across like this. So what is really happening, I feel that as a society, the law is not fully implemented, people are not punished, it takes so long, you will get away with it, or after all, you will be transferred if you do a mistake. So I feel that the fabric of our society, the value to which we value things, we value one another, really is no longer. And I said we need to do a lot of counseling.
Indeed.
And so if we go to school, as Sid had said, I think in school one of the things must be taught is how to make people appreciate others. Yeah, as a society.
The moment you appreciate others, then you see them in a different way.
In a different way, yes.
Absolutely. Just for the sake of our viewer who joins us right about now, our focus tonight is on gender-based violence, and our opinion poll question tonight, we're asking who's to blame for gender-based violence in our society. It's a general question. Feel free to share your responses. Our text number is 20511. A whole lot of responses coming through tonight to be sampling some of those responses. Just to let you in on our guests tonight, we're joined in studio by Honorable Jebi Kilimo, who's the chair of the Anti-FGM board. Also joining us in studio is Siddharth Chatterjee, the country representative of United Nations Population Fund, and of course our resident councillors tonight, Pastor Mac and Purity. We need to cross over to the other side of the studio to just sample some of those your responses tonight. As I mentioned, our SMS number is 20511. Who's to blame for gender-based violence in our society? Melin, what have you been able to gather tonight?
Thank you so much for that, John Kago. And indeed, you're having quite a great interview with your panel of guests there discussing gender-based violence. And of course, for all of you who are sending in your comments and tweets, we will be looking at that. I'd like to start with our comments from the SMS poll. Now, we have a comment here, and no name or location, but you say, Sid from UNFPA is very knowledgeable on gender issues. We need such knowledge and direction. Please train our key government offices. I think, Sid, you'll tell us if you'll be able to give that training. We also have Phyllis here saying, great show, very insightful and incisive too. I agree with you, Phyllis. We have Lucy Mutia from Kitale. She says, the lady should be counseled psychologically, then the police should consult. Maybe he has a mental problem. I think we will throw that back to our panel of guests to tell us if they think that policeman had a mental problem and if maybe it's a psychological issue. We have Isaac Kipruto, who says different traditional norms in the society and disrespect between us and our fellow humans is the cause of gender-based violence. I don't know if our panel will agree with that. We have one from Moranga. This must be a grudge, or the girl maybe provoked the ill-minded goons in Moranga. Bad-dressed girls are heckled. Okay, so that's from Moranga. Let me see if I can quickly see one here from Kisi. Geoffrey Ngare says, society is slowly getting rotten. It is all of us to blame for the animosity we are seeing and hearing all over. Okay. Let me see if I can get another one here from Nakuru. Women must respect their bodies. Exposing their parts should not be taken as digital culture. Okay. Wow, quite some comments from you guys. Let's see. J. Kimani from Kabete says, wanawake waachwe waende uchi kama ndivyo wanataka. Okay, so wanawake waachwe waende uchi kama ndivyo wanataka. I don't know if we can get some comments from our panel of guests. What do you think about these comments, just quickly before we go over to the next part of this program?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mel, for that. Some varied reactions right there. I don't know what you thought. I don't know what you're smiling. What caught your attention?
The last comment that wanawake wakitaka kwenda uchi wawachwe hivyo. It is not that we like to. It's, we are comfortable. I mean, she's comfortable the way somebody is dressed, and beauty lies is in the eyes of the beholder. Yeah.
Right. Some quick reactions to some of the sentiments coming through tonight.
I'd be very keen to know, is the gender disaggregated? How many are men and women responding to this? I generally get a feeling that it's overwhelmingly men who are sending SMSs. Have you had Can you tell how many are
Mel,
men
have
and women?
you been able to find out that we have some ladies?
It's just be useful to
Yeah,
get
we
that
actually,
idea.
can get the perspective.
we actually do have a mix of genders. We have both women and men sending in these comments, but most of them are from men, especially the one that Lina Jabi was talking about, Jay Kimani. Is the one who spoke about wanawake wacho ende uchi.
So it
That's
seems
a
like
man.
it's a whole lot of men who are commenting tonight. So it's a whole lot of men. What
It
kind
goes
of
back.
image?
It goes back to the point I made earlier.
Yep.
You know, about how a boy is brought up and made to perceive his environment at a home. And I think if ever he started off with being equal with his sister, if him and his peers were brought up with a sense of equality, if that the same equality happened in schools, perhaps a lot of these comments may have been slightly different. The most important point is that unless and until the rights of the girl child, the rights of women is really put into the social norm, it's not gonna change. The fact of the matter is, in societies like yours, in societies like mine, and many other countries in the world, gender inequality is an issue, and till such time that issue is there, you will see actions of these sorts that will continue to remain prevalent.
You want to quickly react?
Yeah, I want to, because it could also mean that the habit of most of Kenyan women, at this time, they're not watching news. They're either busy fixing a meal or preparing tomorrow is a Monday and all that. So maybe that's why more men are keen. And again, their juvenism, they know that tonight we shall be discussing something. So that's why all of them are seated strategically somewhere to answer this back.
Okay. I also want to respond to that guy who is saying that if the women want to walk naked, let them be left. And it is so rude and crude the way he has put it. There are so many men who are walking half naked outside there. We see them sagging trousers. Even when they're in the matatus, you see their behinds there. How comes there are no people who strip them? Do they think we really love that character? Some of them even, braid their hair and what? We don't love it. But you cannot fall on somebody's head and begin to undo the hair. So they have no right to undress a woman because they feel they have been violated. It's the same issue he's saying. What do they feel? Who are they in that woman's life? Who do they think they are?
Indeed, fundamental questions there. We shall be coming to, there was a response in terms of training. Government officers and a whole lot of Kenyans who can handle these issues. Someone says you're very knowledgeable, Sid. We'll be coming to that a little later. Just for the sake of you who joins us tonight, our focus is gender-based violence, joined in studio by Honorable Jabi Kilimo, who's the chair, Anti-FGM board. And we'll be coming to that particular issue, very particular about that particular issue, and UNFP also very, that's a matter that you take close to the heart. We'll be talking about that a little later. Also joined in studio by our resident councillor, Pastor Mac and Purity. Your response is appreciated tonight. 20511 is our SMS line. Keep those responses coming through. I'm told there's some clip we need to have run on the air. Mr. Director, kindly get me through this. All right, we did some images on the screens there in regards to female, some are very gross, in regards to female genital mutilation, which is shall put as a focus. And this has been quite a thorn in the flesh, and that will be a focus right about now. There you have it, some of the images there, quite gross at that, and but that's what's happening, and you're very vocal when it comes to this. You chair the Anti-FGM board. Yes. How would you rate, where are we as a country in regards to the fight against FGM?
We're doing well as a country. Why? Because of putting in place the Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Board. That is a product of the law that was passed in 2011, the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act. Sensitization has taken place, but Kenya is the terrain where this circumcision takes place. And of course, we've not covered the whole country. We came into place in January. But definitely, as a country, we are doing well as far as the law front is concerned. But as to the knowledge on the prohibition of of FGM is not yet known to everybody. Yeah, as you can see, FGM is really entrenched in most communities. They hold it so dear. And to undo something that they've considered normal, and especially for the reasons why they do, it will take education with the law working together. Yes.
And we should come back to you. Let's engage Sid. United Nations Population Fund, very particular about this particular issue in regards to the fight against female genital mutilation. How do you come in?
What does female genital mutilation do to a young girl? Number one, it leads to obstetric fistula. And the scourge of fistula is one of the biggest challenges that communities, countries which have, the 29 countries where FGM is actually practiced, and majority of them are in Africa. So it leads to a fistula. Secondly, it leads to immense pain when the woman is going through a sexual act. But finally, many women die at childbirth. UNFPA, along with its development partners, actually hosted a meeting for 15 county governors. 15 counties, John, contribute to 98% of maternal deaths in Kenya. Kenya loses 6,000 to 8,000 women each year. It's like a Boeing Dreamliner with 600 women, pregnant women, crashing every month for about 10 months. The important thing to know is that of these, the key counties which have the highest maternal deaths, Mandera, Marsabit, Wajir, Garissa, Lamu, also have the highest incidences of FGM. So it's an issue where there is an interlinkage with women's health. It has got no religious connotation. It is a cultural thing, but a cultural norm which has become so intergenerational. It's like the caste system of India, you know. It's just been perpetuated, and it's just to keep the woman as an underdog. The Undersecretary General, the head of UNFPA, Dr. Babatunde Osotaiman, describes it as the worst form of the violation of a girl's right. And what does it basically do? She's forced out of school, she's married off early, and you're losing out on 50%. 50% of that economic growth, economic driver is suddenly being put down. If Kenya has to really grow, it needs to get rid of this. Kenya's got a good thing. It has a person like Dr. Kilomo who's leading the FGM drive. I mean, that is by itself a statement that the government of Kenya has made, that it's put a strong general to lead the charge against FGM. The law is there. The important thing, it goes back to gender-based violence,
right,
that it has to be implemented, and implemented in such a manner that it becomes terrifying enough for people to stop doing it. And unless it's exemplary, and as I called it earlier, the shock and awe of justice must follow acts, regardless of rank or station, regardless of political alliances, regardless of social characteristics. It needs to be dealt with comprehensively.
Absolutely. And coming to you, Linda, you chair the Anti-FGM board. Perhaps take us through this. Let's understand further. Is it a matter of tradition? Is it lack of knowledge? Why is this happening?
Yes,
some would blame it on tradition.
Yes, it is tradition. And the reason why people engage in female genital mutilation. If you look at the country prevalence rate, it's at 27%. But when you go to every community, every ethnic community, who do it for different reasons, then it is very high. As Sid had said about, if he talked about Northeastern and all that, some of them still think it is religion, but it's not religion. You come to other pastoralist communities who are in very hardship areas, they do it, they'll tell you they were doing it to reduce the libido of the women because they were traveling far away, so they would want to just find them like that. Yet at the same time, they were doing also to increase marriageability. Now, unless the men also come on board, because the women do it, it's a matter of demand and supply. The women, when you ask them, they're doing it to increase the marriageability of their daughters. For my case, the greatest fear of my mother was to be married. Who will marry my daughter? Because it was done in my community as a rite of passage from childhood to adulthood, so that you can be married off. But with time, they have reduced. It used to be done on 20 to 22 years when you were you're almost ready to be married. But now they've reduced to about 8 years to 10 years. So really, the reasons why they do and the myths that surround. people fear, they fear the unknown. For example, you go to some community and they tell you when you deliver and you're not circumcised, the traditional birth attendant cannot hold your baby, because if they look at your clitoris, then they will go blind. So who wants to go blind?
Some crazy.
Yeah, and who wants also to face problem, considering that we are not yet able to access medical services or to be delivered by medical personnel. The other reason why they hold on to this culture very dearly is because it was done by my grandmother. Everybody has done it. Yeah. So people fear, they don't want it to drop in their hands. They fear a curse that, you know, I am now the one in charge of the tradition at this particular time. So let it get lost in somebody else's hands, but not mine. So then it is perpetuated that way. Now we have a challenge. We have the law, yes, but reporting is still our biggest challenge. Mind you, we want to do prevention, which is better than cure. So when it comes to reporting these incidences, it is done within our community. People fear reporting because of, you know, you will be ostracized by being reported, or, you know, people will, they will not even come to your function, for example, because you are not an island. So if you report, then you are the odd one out. People will not be telling you things. People will not be talking with you. How will you be walking along the corridors or streets of the villages? So that's the challenge that we have. However, the law enforcement officers have done their part, and Office of the Public Prosecutor did appoint 20 magistrates to look into this, to really show the commitment of the government of Kenya on elimination of FGM. Because when it comes to development agendas, or when it comes to counting on the table as much as the vision of the country is, so many of these FGM practicing communities are missing in action, or they have more challenges because the ladies are not there. It is just a one-sided development. And this is what we are telling them. Now, talking about the consequences of female genital mutilation, some are so bad, immediate ones are death, and we have had cases of people dying immediately because of bleeding.
Loss of
and of course then communities are not able to relate the dying of this child because of heavy bleeding to FGM. They will say it is some bad omen of some sort. In fact, we go out there and we tell them, and they'll say, well, who can stop death? So it just came. However, the challenges of FGM are seen more on after. The health consequences, as Sid had said it.
Yeah, but in this fight, then we need to do this so that we know the consequences before, so that we can try to, as you board, is doing the board that you chair, so that we can have this prevalence rates going down.
Pardon?
I mean, you talked of the consequences coming out mainly after.
After, yes. Yeah. So we need to stop before. And that's why I said earlier that we need education. And you are undoing something, and you are telling somebody to drop, and who is saying, I will not drop this culture during my time, because who knows the ancestors? What will they tell me? So let it get lost in somebody's. So they will do everything to hide. We have where people have turned into medicalization, or they hide, they will go further away. Right now they are aware of the law. So you will find them going to the remotest parts where they know there will be no vehicle. For example, they will see, they will be looking out, okay, silently. They are no longer doing the ceremony so that anybody can hear what's happening. They are not doing ceremonies anymore. Silent. Or some, they sing like what happened in Korea last year is it's the men, the young boys are being circumcised. But in between, they put the girls there also dressed like boys.
Yes, so it makes it a little harder even as you try to fight female genital mutilation.
Yes, and the fact that 20 years down the line during delivery, you suffer the consequences of FGM. They are not able to marry to what happened to you when you were cut. They just say these are just the complications.
All right, Sid, law and tradition, and of course these are some of the main issues to deal with in the fight against this. The United Nations Population Fund, as I mentioned, very particular about this, very you know, joining hands with fellow-minded groups, and of course like the Anti-FGM board. How are you coming in so that we can help reduce this prevalence rate?
I believe, you know, Kenya has many advantages. Kenya has a first lady who actually runs a marathon to put the spotlight on dire maternal situation. You just had a program before this. You showed, you know, about 3,000 people dying on road traffic accidents. But somehow, you know, 6,000 to 8,000 women dying at childbirth is not ringing so much of a bell. When we had this 15-county initiative, some of the governors nearly fell off their chair, I mean, figuratively, because they didn't realize that these were the statistics and facts that came out from there. Kenya's First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, has said, she has said that in the 21st century, FGM has no place in our society. She has said, let's embrace the good parts of our culture and let's reject those which are retrogressive. This is clearly a retrogressive issue. So I think the law must be such that in communities where these FGMs have taken place, it's like the law enforcement system. Right from the tribal elder down the chain of command, men need to be taken and taken, you know, have made responsible for this. So be it the village chiefs, be it the religious elders there, be it the pastors, everybody needs to come to account on this and explain how did this happen in their beat and in their call. I think it's simple economics. When you want people to do something, incentivize it. When you don't want them to do something, tax it. Now that can take on different forms.
All right, you talk of religious organizations. You have Pastor Mark and Purity in studio. The church is doing something about this. Your stand on FGM. What are we doing indeed to also help in the reduction of these prevalence rates in terms of female genital mutilation?
Okay, thank you. I like what Honorable JB has said and our brother here. Okay. Personally, as a pastor, and I also want the viewers to know that I'm an ordained minister. I don't just sit next to my husband because he's my husband and he's a pastor. I speak as a pastor. The main thing here is educating the people. And even when I talk to my congregation, one thing I came to realize, a change of mindset is not easy. People may talk about everything, but changing the way people think is the main thing. You can even fight for people and try to defend them, but when their mind is not changed, because there are people I've met, people from Kisiland, ladies, they still insist my child has to be circumcised. And you find this is probably a lady even with a doctorate, an educated woman. When you try to talk to them, they say, me? No, I'm just a kissy or I'm a courier. My daughter has to. It has to. So we try to pray with them and educate them, because ladies need to know that when God created them, he created women beautiful. And part of their sexuality, their beauty is in their sexuality. So when the Bible says that a man should enjoy with the wife of his youth, how is he going to enjoy when you've been mutilated, you've been damaged, you've been spoiled? So first you need to know your identity as a woman, and your value as a woman, even your body. Yeah.
All right. A quick one?
Yeah, John, just to bring another aspect to it, when we really need to deal with these issues, it should go beyond policy. The fact that the law is already in place is enough goodwill on the part of government to deal with this issue. But besides the legal aspects of dealing with this problem, you know in this country that most of the communities that practice FGM, they don't have a lot of development. There's a problem in infrastructural development, education is very low. And so I think besides just putting the law in place, the people even on the ground know nothing about the law. And it's even difficult to do sensitization on the ground, especially when the road network is not there. You go there, you have to drive through a bush, you have to use a 4x4 car to access. And most of these places, the terrain is very rugged, and the government really needs to put in place infrastructure, to make it easy for these people to be accessed, to be sensitized, because they cannot be sensitized if someone who is informed or enlightened comes from Nairobi, they will not go there to ride a bicycle. They will not go there to walk on barefoot or on foot in a rugged terrain which they do not understand with wild animals. And so they will require to use a car. And they cannot go there with the car unless the roads are there. So all these things, it needs a multifaceted approach to fixing and to solving.
Many thanks. I want to take a quick breather. We're coming to you. We're running out of time for some final thoughts on this. But I want us to take a look at a clip still related to what we're discussing tonight. That's the female genital mutilation.
It's something which we all must work to abandon. Now, and you're right. Just about every country that I've been in the last few years had a law abandoning FGM. But the law is not the issue. It is changing the mindset of people and being able to work with people who are perpetrating this. Men, women, mothers, fathers, grandmothers. And I think that we have been able to do so effectively with 4,000, more than 4,000 communities that we work with. In the same manner, working with them, explaining to them, making sure that they become, you know, the fighters for it. So we're not the ones that will do it because we have to leave them to persuade their other community members in order for that to happen.
All right, that's Dr. Babatunde, Executive Director, United Nations Population Fund. They're talking about the exact issues that we were talking about in terms of dealing with female genital mutilation. We're coming to the end of this program. Perhaps some final thoughts in regards to the fight against female genital mutilation. I start with you, Honorable Kilimo.
It is the honors of each one of us to be an ambassador for the elimination of female genital mutilation, because the consequences vary from education to health consequences, and the general development of the community, and generally then to the whole country. And counting on you, the media, to also bring into focus the consequences of female genital mutilation, because the mindsets can only be changed by education. They wear this practice as an ethnic badge. It gives them an identity. We need to tell them there are other ways of identifying yourself than just being circumcised.
Absolutely, and we wish you well with what you're doing. You chair the Anti-FGM board. We shall continue these conversations because we need to continue talking.
Just look at the first clip. You could see that those girls are not in school, isn't it?
They're not.
Yeah, so education is the first.
Absolutely, indeed. Sid?
I think Dr. Babatunde Osutamin, my boss of UNFPA, summarized it really well. It's about changing mindsets. Those mindsets need a multi-pronged approach. Education is one of them, but not alone. It's starting in the homes. How are the pastors, religious leaders, telling the mother and father what changes they need to make in their life? How are the tribal elders having a positive influences? These are opinion and thought leaders in the community that need to become the framework of that. Like I said, the policeman cannot go and sit, or the law enforcement agency cannot sit inside the home of an individual. The whole GBV, the gender-based violence issue, needs to be looked at multi-sectorally, from education in schools to teachers training, to training health workers, to training of policemen, to training the judiciary, a multifaceted approach. But what I'm saying is that in a country like Kenya, with a 42 million population, it's not so difficult to change it. I think what it needs, the political will is there, now is the resolve by the county governors who've incidentally signed this communique, which talks about ending traditional harmful practices.
Of course, FGM.
Before you go to the church, you need to go back to your roots, because before the law came, the church was there. People who abandoned FGM, the first, like the Nandi community, the Kikuyu community, the Akamba, it is through the church.
That's right.
And so you need to take your rightful place.
That's absolutely a challenge right there.
Yeah, that's true. Honey, you want to say something, please?
It's teaching.
All right.
Oh, it's just that change of mindset, and as he has said, we are pastors and what, we all fall under opinion leaders. People really count on us. Yeah. We are just ranked the same with politicians. We are influencers. So as pastors, it is our duty to educate our flock in the right way, because even everybody outside there, they belong to a religious system. They are a member, they submit to somebody. So if the family fails, I believe it is the religious community that has a role. The religious community is like the basic of our family. If the biological unit fails, the spiritual family takes over, and it is our duty to guide society, to teach them the morals and even the values. And I want to tell the young girls there, for those who feel like circumcision is some form of empowerment, it's not written on your forehead. Nobody really knows you're circumcised.
All right.
So you don't have to do it.
Some final thoughts as we wind this up. I'm running out of time.
John, just very quickly, I want to say that just as Sid has said also, it needs a multi-pronged approach to solving this problem. But I strongly believe if we are going to deal with the issue of FGM once and for all conclusively, we need a transgenerational approach. Because most of the elderly members of the community, they are the custodians of the culture. They are the ones who are teaching these children that we need to value this. So if we are going to deal with it, we need to deal with the younger generation. When they grow up, we will face out this.
All right. I think that's the right place to end this conversation. We can go on and on.
We did start what you call the girl generation. It was launched on the day of the girl child, 10th of October.
All right.
So you're right.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Many thanks our panel of experts tonight joining this a very important conversation. Thank you so much for making time to come and discuss this. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. I'm being told that we need to let you know that in the coming days, another focus will be on family planning, and United Nations Population Fund is also very particular about this particular issue. We shall have our guests back in studio real soon to help us discuss that matter. Joined in studio by Honorable J.B. Kilimo, the chair of the Anti-FGM board. Thank you so much for making time. Sid Hart Chatterjee, you're the country representative of the United Nations Population Fund. Thank you so much. And of course, our resident councillors, Pastor Mark and Purity. Thank you so much. The gentleman.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. That was cool. Many thanks. We take a quick breather. We are back in a moment. Actually, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Melin, and every Sunday we bring you a segment we call Living the Dream. Melin, what do you have?
Okay, I saw you, John Kaga. They're almost falling on your chair. You've had quite an amazing interview. That was so amazing, and we've gotten so much responses from all of you guys watching, and want to thank you all. We may not be able to look at every comment you've sent in, but let me just quickly say one from our SMS poll and 2 tweets that we got. We have one SMS here from Eva Gisla from Kibwezi, and they say men should learn to exercise self-control. They should learn to respect women. They have no right to dictate women dressing. Okay, and we also got a few tweets from you guys. Let me quickly say them. Shadrach Mutua 39 says, wonderful interview going on there. Proud of you guys. I wish our conscience could guide us and not laws. So that's Shadrach. We have another one. Nicholas Ngunjiri says, what people see and copy from the Western culture is the cause of all these we encounter. But again, we must respect one another's dignity. Now, this has been such a great interview, and of course, we've not been able to tackle everything. We will be continuing even with issues family planning, so be sure to keep it here every Sunday as we tackle these issues.